Hey, what's up? So if I was to give this movie out of 5, I would give this a 4.5 on one side. If I had a kid who wanted to make film, I would show them this particular movie in terms of technicalities. It's fantastic. But on the other side, I would give this movie a 2. A 2, why? Two major reasons. But to just give you an idea of my mindset after coming out of this particular movie, when I walked out of Gladiator, I felt like a kid again. You know, remember when you were a kid going to the cinemas and leaving and feeling like, yes, that was awesome, I want to do this again. That's how I felt after leaving Gladiator. After leaving this movie, Wicked 2024, I felt like an adult who has to deal with social, political issues. That's how I felt. Anyway, let's get into it. So this movie, the best way to actually now continue describing this, because I'm trying to look at it from the most normal person, grounded person way possible. This is, think of Harry Potter in terms of magic and wonder. Blend that with Mad Max Fury Road, you know, in terms of visuals and that realistic, tangible feeling, not the action, that realistic production design, whereby you look at things and you're like, wait, that looks kind of real. This almost looks real. I know it's fake, I know it's a lie, but there is some realistic feel to the picture that doesn't actually make sense, because you'd expect a movie like this to be extremely CGI, because you think Wizard of Oz, you think of wonder, then you immediately think of CGI, because we live in a very advanced future whereby CGI can correct everything. But like Mad Max Fury Road, whereby you're looking at some events happen and you're like, this looks super realistic. There's very little CGI, and I'm not talking about the storm, I'm talking about the action set pieces, whereby you're looking at stuff and you're like, this looks real. So with Wicked 2, you get moments like that whereby things look realistic, things look real, they look tangible. It looks like a real place, it looks authentically realistic, even with the costumes. And the costume and that world helps you believe in this world. Now, the 4.5 now comes in with, oh, I forgot, also put in a lot of Indian movies. You know, the problem with most of the American musical, for me, it has been that you don't feel the grandness of the musicals as compared to Indian movies. Because when you think Indian movies, if you watch any Indian movies during a dance set piece, you understand how grand they look like. They put so much attention into choreography that they make you believe in the grandness of what they had to present. John M. Chu, who is the director of this particular movie, you need to direct an Aladdin movie. The last Aladdin was good. Guy Ritchie, one of my top 5 directors, but John M. Chu, you need to direct an Aladdin movie, because what I saw with the dance pieces, with the musical, I was like, yes, this is what Disney actually needed for the Aladdin movie. And they've never really gotten that right to the live action. So let's go into this movie. Number one, I like how the story was structured, because there is an expectation when you go into this film, because it feels like it panders towards a particular group of people, and it feels like they will just use that to be super obvious and they'll use us to be blunt. But like Barbie, I think there was a lot of effort that was put into telling a cohesive and well-layered story, because this story is, it has a lot than I expected. There was more to it than I expected. Number one, the opening, actually, this whole movie is a flashback, actually, when I actually think about it, because it doesn't begin where you think it's going to begin. It begins at a certain point, and then you go like, oh, so what happened? And then they go like, oh, let me tell you whatever, and then now you go into the story. And I kind of like that idea, in that they already kind of give you the ending, and then you go into the story, and so you don't go in with a lot of expectations. Yes, you might have that a bit, you might have a bit of that, what is this for? If that's the ending, then what's the point? But I like the fact that they gave us that introduction, and so you go in clearly understanding what you're going in for. Now, the complexity of this character and the layering comes in terms of each character's motivation, because it doesn't feel one-dimensional, because you have Michelle Yeoh and how magic is treated. You have characters like Michelle Yeoh, and you have the wizard, who is Jeff Goldblum. And the motivations is very, very interesting and ties in to Cynthia Erivo's character in a very, very interesting way. And it makes sense for them to be interested in this particular character because, again, magic plays a very interesting role in this world, and the director and the writers were able to deconstruct this world and actually introduce us to the laws and everything that happens within this world of Oz. They expanded this particular universe. So there's a lot of drama with animals. Even the concept of the relationship between Michelle Yeoh's character and Ariana Grande's character and Cynthia Erivo's character. Those three in itself is a very, very interesting relationship because you have one person who wants something from this person, but that person is not interested in that. But that person who's not interested in that is interested in this other person who has that special thing that they want, and they want it for a reason. There's a reason into everything, and the character motivations are clear with all the characters, and it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. If you've watched any Wizard of Oz movie, there are things that actually make sense for Michelle Yeoh and the wizard, who is Jeff Goldblum, to have. It makes sense for them to have that motivation because we are given an understanding of where they're coming from and what they need to do. Despite the fact that it's not actually good, you understand why they need to do it. So I thought that was pretty cool. The dance sequences are really good. I thought the blocking and the general movement of the camera, extremely playful, extremely, there were moments I was like, yeah, I see it, but how the hell did they do that? There's some very creative moment with camera work and the musical sessions within them. It's a musical, but they made an effort to actually make something that is actually interesting to look at. Let me just put it that way. Despite sometimes I was not really loving the songs, but I just enjoyed sometimes just looking at the picture because of what they were able to do with it. Now, Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, perfect casting. I thought she was perfectly cast because of her performance. There's one point for me that turned her character around, because at first I was like, yeah, I expected that, I saw that coming. But there's a certain moment, it's not spoiler, I'm just going to put it out there. There's a certain moment that dance, whatever, they're supposed to be there's an awkward dance, yeah? And then now Ariana Grande's character comes in and does something that turns their relationship around. And so after that, the follow-up to that particular moment, she does this song, and I was like, wow, that is heartfelt. I felt for that moment, I was like, yeah, this is really well done. And I was like, yes, that is perfect casting. She was perfectly cast for that particular role. And Ariana Grande too, I thought she was pretty interesting. I didn't see some of the things because I didn't think of the humor side of this. I really liked her relationship with Michelle Yeoh, that dynamic, because as I said before, there was something that one person needed and the other person was not really interested in. And that dynamic, and then now you add Elphaba's character, and that makes for a very interesting dynamic. Elphaba's character is tragic in a way, where she came from. Actually, she's a product of infidelity. I was shocked that they just put that out there. People are intoxicated with the wrong stuff, infidelity, and she happened, And that for me I was shocked that early on they actually presented that way. But anyway, that's her beginning. And so as she goes through her life, you're looking at her and you're thinking, was it really her fault to be this way? It wasn't, it happened because of someone else, mistake back in the past, and now you're watching her go through this, trying to be accepted in this particular group, and yet it's not her fault. It's not coming from her. She doesn't really want. For her, it's there's nothing wrong with her according to her, but everyone looks at her differently. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then at a certain point, as I said, after that particular awkward dance where Ariana Grande does something, their relationship after that I thought was very, very interesting. Their relationship dynamic. Yes, you have that moment in the second act whereby we have that classic scenario where two people don't like each other, and so they have their awkward moments. But there's a moment after that I was like, yeah, I like these two. So yeah, I really like, in terms of technicalities, how the story was structured, how it was paced, because this is almost 3 hours. I'm not sure about the time, I'm not going to lie to you. This is almost 3 hours, because when I walked in, it was a particular time. When I walked out, you know the way you look at your phone and you realize, wow, that's 3 hours. I walked in 3 hours ago. So you get that. I got that, and I did not feel the length of the movie. So those are the positives. I thought it's a very well produced movie. The direction is awesome. The performances are really good. Now the lore of this particular world is expanded. I mean, there are stories about the animals and why animals speak, and why some people need to do some things about animals, and how magic plays into everything, that actually makes it a very entertaining movie. As I said, 4.5. So in terms of a cinematic experience, it's a solid 4.5. It's a very good cinematic experience. What did not work? Why did I give it a 2? Number one, and I'll start with the small things. This lied. The trailers lied. The promotional materials lied. Because when the title card pops up, there is a small interesting detail that is revealed that was not in the promotional materials. And these guys the studios need to be answerable for this, because that's lying to your audience. Because there's something that they never said in anything else. I never saw this coming. I never saw it somewhere. I don't know if this is spoiler. If you want to know this and you want to go into the experience without knowing anything, you can turn away for the next 5 seconds. But this is not a big deal. It's just something. It's a very small detail that pissed me off. This is Wicked Part 1. This is part 1 of I don't know how many movies, but this is part 1, and they never indicated it. Now, does that mean that the movie does not feel complete? No. The movie feels like it has a solid ending. You feel the end. It feels like its own standalone product. It can stand alone by itself. But then you know that you're going to have another story because of where they take it at the end. They indicate Wicked Part 1. Part 1. It was not, there was nothing. There was no poster showing Part 1. There was no trailer that told us Part 1. There was nothing that was indicating that this was Part 1, as far as I'm concerned. I never saw a poster saying Part 1. So I feel cheated. And I think Universal need to be investigated for this, because they lied in their trailer. They lied in their promotional material. If it was Part 1, they needed to have said that this was Part 1. It needs to be clear from the word go. Because I found this very frustrating. Even walking out, and I was like, I like the production design, but do I have to endure this again? Which now leads me to my next point. Why now did I give it a 2 outside the opening title? Now, as I said before, this made me feel like an adult who has to deal with social, political drama. Why? Because we have DEA, but this is diversity, acceptance, and inclusion, but with really good makeup. No, I'm not talking about this, get your mind out there, I'm not talking about, I just mean that they did what Barbie did, which is you take a social political theme, then you have DAI, you have diversity, acceptance, and inclusion. Imagine them as Lego pieces. Then they break them apart with the writing. They put very different pieces everywhere so that you cannot tell. A normal person cannot be able to see this because it's written and constructed so well, plus a high production value, that it totally masks what it's actually about. Because I was able to see that the subtext for me was they're clearly acceptance, inclusion, with Ariana Grande's character, with Elphaba. There is diversity in terms of the casting and some of the choices that they made with particular characters. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I did not need this. Because I had such an incredible cinematic experience looking at this world, learning about the laws of this particular world, looking at this beautiful picture. But then the subtext, when you process what you've just watched, it's acceptance, inclusion, and diversity. That's the basic, that's the log line of this particular movie, according to me. So I walked out feeling tired. I walked out feeling like, oh my gosh, this is 2020 something. Yeah, this is the early 2020s. Yeah, that's all they could think about. you know, and the way it was executed, it was very, very good, but still, that's what I saw, and I did not feel like a kid again. I did not feel like I was going to a theater. I felt like I went to a very creative lecture on social political issues. So that's my review. If you're going into this movie you've been wanting, if you're looking for something very, very creative to indulge in, something very engaging in terms of a creative execution of a mediocre theme, this is it. So basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. So see you on the next one. Adios.